Hello, all. Welcome to finally History with R&R Live with Potato Revan.
Greetings!
How are you today,
Welcome.
Jeff?
I'm doing pretty well.
All
How are
right,
you?
so right out of the gate, I apologize for the delay. Right before I was ready to hit the go live button, and I'm sorry, Mrs. Canuck, I couldn't call, but I wanted to get us live because Revan's only got a limited time that he can be here. But basically, long story short, dialysis decided to phone and go, by the way, you know how normally you come to this hospital, it's 5 minutes away from your house? Yeah, today we're moving you to the one that's 45 minutes away from the house. And we're giving you exactly, when 6 o'clock. 7 hours notice. So I had to get on the phone and make sure that I could still get a ride to dialysis and
Yeah,
home.
we're the
So
Important.
countryside
again,
for
I
this.
apologize for the delay, but when it's something like that, I have to put this on hold because I have to be able to get to and from dialysis or I'm hooped. And it's
Exactly.
minus 21 out there, so I do not want to be waiting around for nothing. So anyway, with all that rubbish out of the way, today we are joined by Potato Revan to talk about D-Day. Although I'm not exactly sure what a potato-eating Irishman knows about D-Day, but or not D-Day,
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
I had a relative there.
Unless he was a potato farmer on the island. But
No, I actually had a relative there.
okay, I'm just bugging you, Revan.
Yeah. He was growing in the ground by a tree.
And yes, old media guy, minus 21 degrees Celsius without the wind chill.
Yes, old media guy. It's also known as real world temperatures, not that
Yes.
made up Fahrenheit stuff that you
Yeah.
Americans.
Made up. What?
If you're
I
the
take
only one
offense to that, Revan. I
good,
take
it was
offense to
meant.
that.
Offense was meant.
All
As
right.
long as you're
So,
right. But
on to the topic of the day.
yeah. So Pearl Harbor is 80 years tomorrow. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. If we're all still around in the next 20 years, we should do a 100-year anniversary stream on it. So, yeah. The attack that most people knew about, but nobody really thought was happening. All these generals had found out. Midway found out. All these different places found out. Did you know that was possibly 20 years in the making?
20 years.
20 years.
Please, please do tell us about that.
So, Japan, when it's in the imperial expansion, has always looked at America's western coast. Hawaii and a few different places like that. Expanding into that, which is one of the reasons why a lot of the fictions today have Japan controlling a lot of the western side of America in alternate histories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now, for people who actually didn't know, the Emperor of Japan actually was always constitutional. He didn't really have that much power.
No.
Which is, when you look at like all the history books and everything about it, they don't really tell you that he was a constitutional monarch as well. Which is kind of really surprising when I found out. I'm like, wait, now, they were constitutional before World War II?
Yeah, well, see, the whole thing is the military took over for the most part.
They always did from the
But
Soviets.
the whole thing is if you look at it like this, to a great degree, Hirohito had about as much power as Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
The difference is Hirohito was worshipped as a god.
Because in the Shinto religion of Japan...
That's the difference.
Oh, yeah. Because in the Shinto
Slight
religion
difference.
of Japan, the imperial family and the 125 emperors now, I believe, are all claiming descent from the two creator kamis.
Yeah.
They claim to be their direct descendant, which is why a lot of the people and the invasion of Japan would have been a very bad idea. And so when America decided to play catch with Japan
Yeah.
Twice.
Well, basically, Pearl Harbor was written in stone.
Yeah.
The moment the United States put an oil embargo,
Yeah.
the moment that the United States put an oil embargo on Japan, Pearl Harbor was set in stone. Now, here, to branch off, and now I'm going to get all nerdy and show how much
Always.
useless information I have in my head. Um, Pearl Harbor was because if you go back to the treaties, the Japanese Navy was not big enough to take on the United States Navy, even split it half, because you got to remember at this time and even today, the United States Navy is split up into two sections. It has the Western and the Eastern
Yeah.
divisions. So even just the division that it faced, the East, it it couldn't go one on one.
Yeah.
It wasn't big enough. So what they needed to do was whittle down the Navy enough that they could have one big battle and win. The failure of Pearl Harbor was the carriers were not in Pearl.
No.
That was the
Which,
failure of Pearl.
yeah.
The advantage to Pearl was the battleships were knocked out,
Yeah.
which meant you didn't get the response to the Philippines that they would have had they not done Pearl.
Mm-hmm. And did you know that because of Pearl Harbor that they sorted out a torpedo issue for the world? Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah, could you tell us about that?
So before Pearl Harbor, when you drop a torpedo in
yeah,
from a plane, they kind of go all over the place, right? So they used to attach like fins and things like that
yeah,
onto the sides to try and stabilize it, but they didn't have a proper stabilization unit. So on one of the ships, one of the guys turned around and he basically got four bits of wood and made a cage for the propeller at the back, attached it on, dropped it in like in the testing wherever they test their torpedoes, and that's how they did it. That's
well,
why.
that and see the other thing that if we go back just to Pearl
Yeah.
and look at Pearl Harbor, the problem with Pearl was at the time, the Pearl Harbor was seen as Fortress Pearl.
Yes.
Okay, so like any fortress that you're living in, whether it be back in the Middle Ages or even modern day,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at, well, where will my enemy attack? Well, standard operating procedure is the enemy will attack at your weakest points.
This,
Pearl is not one of those. In the grand scale of
yeah.
things, Pearl is not your weakest point. So an attack on Pearl was seen as preposterous because why would you attack Pearl? That is dumb. That is where the fleet is. That is where, no, they're not going to attack Pearl because they'll get annihilated. You don't attack Pearl. It would be like if you go back to, well, even World War II, that
Yeah.
would be like attacking the Royal Navy at Scapa Flow. You're not attacking the Royal Navy at Scapa Flow because that's where all the battleships are.
Right.
Right?
And surprisingly, a bit of surprising history, which I found out recently, was Ireland was one of the most defended countries on the planet because the British Empire was so paranoid that Ireland would be taken over by a German socialist group from World War II that they basically said, you know what, we're going to basically protect Ireland as if it's a newborn baby.
Yeah. but so what ends up happening and yes, brightest day, the United States Navy, and it was more the submarine torpedoes,
Yeah.
but also the onboard ship torpedoes as well. The Mark 14 was the main culprit. which
I
was in
know.
the subs. And the Mark 14 torpedo was utterly useless for about 2 years. Um,
Yeah.
and what ends up happening with the Mark 14, if I remember right, if I've got the right name, I think I do. Anyway, the torpedo that the United States enters the war with for the submarines is its guidance systems and its detonators. So either the torpedo would run too low, its contact would not detonate, it would hit the ship and bounce off, which is very useless in war. Uh, and submarine captains for years, but this is kind of going away from Pearl Harbor, but I'll touch on it
Yeah.
because it was in chat. Uh, for the longest time, we're telling the higher ups our damn torpedoes won't hit. Well, of course, being brass, they went, then you're firing them wrong, morons. And captains would lose their job. Like
Mm.
actual captains of submarines would be demoted, taken out of service because they weren't using the weapon properly, only to find out 2 years later that it was actually the torpedo. And if you're going back, yeah, no, they didn't say sorry. But anyway, moving on. Pearl Harbor.
I don't think we want to say what they said.
Uh, tough titties.
But Pearl Harbor was seen as they're not going to attack here. It's the stronghold. So they could see attack in the Philippines. They could see an attack here. They could see an attack at Midway. But they couldn't see an attack at Pearl because Pearl was the stronghold. And the other thing that a lot of people have to realize is aircraft are just making their
Proper debut.
I mean, for the most part, your main fleet, your capital ship is still the battleship. It's not the
Yeah.
aircraft carrier. Like a lot of people look back like today and go, "Well, aircraft carriers are the captain." Not then. Then the battleship was. The aircraft carrier was not really proven as an attack vehicle. It was more for scouting at the time.
Yeah.
The Japanese
Also-
really took advantage of that. Hold on. Yeah.
But
Go ahead,
there was
Revan.
so in a lot of media today about Pearl Harbor, one of the things that people keep getting wrong, just to show a dramatic effect, is that the hospitals are always hit. But it was an order by the Japanese higher ups to not attack the hospitals.
Oh, that's interesting. I was
Yeah.
unaware of that fact.
Yeah, also there was a lot of people on Pearl Harbor paranoid about Pearl Harbor. Like they kept, like I've heard stories and things like that about people keep saying I could easily take out Pearl Harbor from the sky. Not talking about the ships, but the base. They're like, we aren't looking up to the sky enough.
Yeah, and like,
Welcome back, Robert.
yeah, sorry about that, folks. Dialysis can be interesting. Anyway, so where are we? I had to mute here.
So I basically said that they gave an official order to not attack the hospitals, which is what they don't show in modern media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and also people on, like, soldiers were, now they weren't talking about the fleet, they were talking about the base. A couple of pilots, what they used to do for fun was basically say how they take out Pearl Harbor, like just sitting around where they go to take out Pearl Harbor, not even thinking about the fleet.
Yeah.
'Cause that's
Well,
just
Pearl
like-
Harbor. Well, see, Pearl Harbor was a set of mistakes. For one, the United States aircraft were taken out. And the reason that the United States aircraft were so easily taken out was they were sitting on the field wing to wing.
Yeah,
And the reason that they're sitting on the airfield wing to wing is because an order had gone out that all aircraft were to be put out in the field wing to wing and supervised for a threat of vandalism or espionage from Japanese residents on Hawaii. So to protect against the home threat, The planes were put wing to wing and watched out in the open so that nobody could sabotage them.
Speaking,
But by doing that, they made them prime target from the air.
yeah. Speaking about what they actually did was they actually planned a lot of the attack from Pearl Harbor via the phone book. Did you know that?
Yeah.
The phone book.
The phone book. Basically, what they do is they'd go along. Literally, they'd open the phone book and they'd just say, "I'll use the English names," just like they're like, Jeff Franklin owns a barber shop on the beach of Pearl Harbor. Phone up. Hello, Mr. Franklin. I'm just wondering, how's the weather today? It's sunny. Lovely. Thank you so much. Go up. Mr. Knowles, you own a butcher's. How's the weather today? And they did this all along the beach.
Yeah.
Across the island. They kept
Well,
phoning
the other
up.
thing too is they had people that would be dressed as tourists taking pictures,
Oh, yeah.
and which the Allies would do it in Normandy.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, moving on. But after the war, it was found that the actual homegrown threat was much less than what
A lot of
they
the
anticipated.
Japanese I've seen documentaries and different things. A lot of the Japanese were actually shouting, "Let us fight. We will fight for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Send us to Japan. We could do damage in Japan. We look Japanese."
Well, actually, and another thing that isn't said is one of the most decorated units in the United States military during World War II was Japanese.
Yeah.
But at any rate,
How ironic.
yeah, how ironic, huh?
I know.
I can't remember if it was the most decorated unit in the Pacific or the second, but yeah, one of the most decorated units in the Pacific was Japanese, of Japanese descent. But
But
but Pearl Harbor itself is a day that lives in infamy because it was the one time that the United States got caught with their pants down.
yeah.
Um,
How do you feel about that,
Basically,
Jeff?
everybody expected Midway.
Yeah.
If they were going to attack, they would attack Midway because Midway was closer to where the Japanese fleet was.
You
It
could
was
say it was
closer
in
to
the
where.
middle.
Yeah, it's closer. So obviously Midway.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's
but
the
the
best
Japanese needed to strike the United States Navy because if they go one-on-one with the Navy, so the original plan was if they, let's say they don't, Pearl Harbor doesn't happen
thing. Yeah.
and they just attack the Philippines. Okay, well, the United States' response is we're sending the fleet across. So the idea was you whittle down the fleet as it's crossing. Now, the Japanese have bases where their ships can heal, yada, yada, yada. The United States doesn't.
Yeah.
So you bring them across the ocean, you whittle them down. Then once they're whittled down enough, the main confrontation happens. The Japanese wins because they have the numbers. And then you've won the battle. That was their thinking. It wasn't going to play out that way,
No.
but that was the thinking. So what ends up happening is they go, well, if we strike the United States' Navy now and we cripple them, we go one big attack, because you got to remember this worked.
It
The
did.
Japanese aren't doing this because somebody decided, well, this is going to work because it's never been tried before. That is false. This was tried before, and they won the war. It was against the Russians. They sunk the Russian fleet in the harbor,
Well-
and then they won the war. So this is not too far of a fetch from that doctrine.
Yes,
Um,
but what I've actually heard, like people and everything like that, saying was a lot of the higher ups always never expected Midway to be hit first. They said if Americans get into the war from an attack, it is not going to be Midway. And someone's like, well, where else would you expect? Pearl Harbor, somewhere else? And they're like, yes. Literally.
Yeah, there were some that thought Pearl, but the higher ups were no. You're not going to attack an enemy stronghold. You're going to attack where they're weakest, which is why they were pointing at Midway.
Yeah. If
So
now so my history teacher, right? He said he always had an idea of what he would do to be more brazen from Japan, right? He would
mhm.
not. He said he would not have attacked Pearl Harbor. He would have attacked San Diego.
Yeah, the there
So
were discussions about it. I mean, later on in the war, you have the major submarine that's slash an aircraft carrier,
yeah,
uh, that was supposed to attack the United States. Although I think at that point they had moved their target to New York, but that never happened either. Um,
I mean
so,
the
but yeah, I
movie
know
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor is a tragedy
It
because
is
it shouldn't have happened.
no, but here's
And
some.
that because if you think about it, I mean there's the conspiracy theories that come out,
Of
which you
course,
could go down that rabbit hole for like 3 weeks.
yeah.
Um, did Roosevelt know? Did Churchill know?
No
How
one knew.
accurate
Everyone was
is that
getting told, but they didn't
information?
believe.
And yes, there were reports that an attack was coming.
Yeah,
What they didn't know was where. There were hints it could be Pearl, but again, your higher ups are going, they're not going to attack Pearl. Pearl is the stronghold. They're going to attack Midway because Midway doesn't have the Navy.
Right.
And so you had that two train of thought, not realizing what damage a carrier group could do because it really hadn't been done in that force before.
yeah. Also, the kamikaze really, really screwed with the
Yeah, but that's not
survivors.
till later. That's not till
No,
43, 44.
yeah, but I know that a lot of the planes that they did shoot down, people did say they were kamikazes.
And the other thing, too, that you have to remember is technically, let's bring a Star Wars conversation into this. Who
Okay,
shot first?
Han,
On the day of Pearl, who shot first? The United States or Japan?
Japan,
Wrong.
but Japan attacked.
Ah, but who shot first? Japan
I
or the United
no,
States?
okay. Given the logic, it would have been the United States shooting off rounds to defend themselves.
No, you're still wrong.
Okay. Why don't you
United
tell us
States,
the real
the
answer
United
here,
States
Robert?
technically fired first because earlier on in the morning, about an hour and a half to 2 hours before the Pearl Harbor attack takes place, a United States destroyer reports a submarine
And they destroyed
and
it.
reports firing on submarine, reports
Yep.
sinking a submarine off the
Oops.
coast of Pearl. These reports are poo-pooed and told, no, you didn't sink a submarine. So the commander of the submarine says, I sunk a sub. And he goes, no, you didn't. Yes, we did. No, you didn't. And that is basically until about 19... Oh, bloody hell. Many years after the war, they're finally vindicated. And the reason they're vindicated is because they find the midget sub they sunk.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the
That
United
was part of our
States
radio play.
technically shot first. If you want to get into the technicalities. Now, the other thing about that is if this commander of this destroyer had been taken seriously,
They
Pearl would
would
have
have.
been on red alert.
Here's something I
But
don't get
because they
from.
weren't taken seriously and they were like, oh, yeah, you sunk a submarine. Good for you, boy. Yeah, you sunk a submarine. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did. Oh, good for you. But they never got credit for it till after the war.
No.
He was told, no, you didn't. You didn't sink a submarine. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. There were also sightings of said midget subs, because that's what they were, midget subs,
Yeah. They sank 4
throughout
of
the
them
morning.
total.
And so technically, if you want to play the game, who shot first, it's the United States.
Imagine if it was who shot first? France. Wait, what? Exactly, a Frenchman. Oh, but Pearl Harbor, honestly, if it was me, I would have caked that place in guns and had every single ship prepared because, like, they were. You could tell America was gearing up for war. They were going.
Oh,
to
yeah.
Be in,
They had been for a little while. The
Well,
the
they knew it was
problem
coming.
is Pearl was safety zone. Okay,
Yeah.
Pearl was thought to be untouchable. Well, just as the Titanic proved, unsinkable ships can be sunk.
Hey,
Um,
I'm still
and,
down there from that one.
So Pearl was thought to be the undisputed, fortress. So you're not going to attack it. It's the United States' Scapa Flow, which is
Yeah.
why the British were so pissed off when the Germans got a submarine there and sunk a couple of ships there too. But because Scapa Flow is supposed to be the safe anchorage, you're supposed to be able to park your boat there and nothing happened to you. Same with Pearl. Pearl is considered the safe anchorage. There's going to be war, there's going to be battle, but it won't be here.
Yeah.
So that was the
Is Pearl
main
still used
issue.
today?
And a lot of it too was denial. Like I said, the destroyer clearly says we sunk a submarine. It was Japanese. No,
Yeah.
you didn't. Yeah, I did. No, you didn't. Listen to me. No, you didn't. You may think you did, but it's just some cowboy shooting off depth charges at phantom submarines. Good try, buddy boy.
Then what the
If
hell?
they had taken that warning serious, Pearl
Yes.
Harbor would have been a little different.
Oh, it
But of course they
absolutely
didn't.
would've.
Instead, they told the commander, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't see
Yeah.
a submarine." Which, of course, lends voice to the conspiracy theories that they wanted it to happen. Yada yada yada.
Why would
No,
anyone want
it
that
was
to
just
happen?
pride. But anyway,
Yeah, but why would anyone want that to happen?
because conspiracy theories will exist even if you prove them wrong. That's why.
Easy, flat Earth.
Titanic was actually the Olympic.
And the Olympic was the Britannic. Did you hear that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like, why did they change
Moon
all these
landings
ships?
were on a soundstage.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See, these things will happen whether you like it or not. And
A
you
friend
can
of mine
sit there
went to the Titanic Museum with it. He doesn't believe it, but he just decided to deny everyone working there with a T-shirt that says the Titanic is actually the Britannic.
Well, considering at the time the Britannic wasn't even laid down yet, we'll
Sorry, I mean the
not even
Olympics.
put that
No,
into
I mean the Olympic.
into the figures. And then it sat in dry dock for years, and the only reason the Britannic actually got finished, and now I'm way off topic, but anyway, the only reason Britannic actually got finished was World War One.
Where it became
Because then the British
a
government
medical ship.
forked out the money to finish it. But anyway, because they needed
But yeah,
a
back
troop
to
ship.
Pearl Harbor before.
Back to Pearl.
Before
several
I actually
years
head
later.
off.
Back on
I know,
topic.
right? Wait, we have
Stay on
topics.
target.
Yeah, stay on target.
Sort of.
Um, Yeah, so Pearl Harbor is one. It was such a shock because one, it was like I said, it was Fortress America. Nobody's going to attack Pearl, and actually, what leads to Pearl being feasible is before this, the United States fleet wasn't always in Hawaii. It was actually close to the mainland
Yeah.
before that. And then they moved it to Hawaii once tensions started to grow between Japan and the United States. So now, with Pearl being the target, um, they were hoping to get the carriers.
Yeah.
With the carriers out on maneuvers, it screws the Japanese because realistically, even if they had not hit a single battleship, if they take out the carriers, the Marianas doesn't happen, and a lot of battles after that. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is that technically, for part of that war after Pearl, the United States actually had a British aircraft carrier flying the American flag. Because they were
And
down on carriers.
now, for those of people who don't know, most British cars are actually fueled by tea.
Yeah, you're very funny. There,
A lot of British things are.
yes, but well, the major difference between the United States and the British, getting off topic again, aircraft carrier wise, is American aircraft carriers were wooden deck,
Yeah.
and the United Kingdom was reinforced steel. That's the biggest difference, and the trade off was the United States could carry more planes. The British had a better protected flight deck. But at any rate, moving on.
Yeah. But
Pearl Harbor. Go ahead.
I have to go.
Oh
Time.
yeah.
It's time.
10 to,
So
10
we need to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah,
to
I
wrap
need
it
to
up.
wrap.
So thank you all. Do tune in. I hope you. I do apologize that this was such a short live
Yeah.
stream. And I apologize for the late start there, Revan. It is an important
No worries,
topic,
man.
and it deserves more time. But unfortunately, Revan's got to go, and I had to deal with dialysis. So again, I apologize for that, folks. However, I do want to draw attention. This Friday's roundtable will be on the same topic. Tomorrow we will not have a stream, but we figure between the live stream today and the roundtable on Friday, we will be able to cover Pearl and give it the respect that it deserves. So I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope that you've learned a couple of new things and further the conversation. And tomorrow at some point, please do bow your head for a couple minutes and remember that many young men's lives were snuffed out on that day.
Yes.
And without their sacrifice, you wouldn't be where you are. So
And I
thank
wanna
you
point
very
out-
much.
I want to point out I put a link into the chat for our radio play of Pearl Harbor.
Oh yes, that was last year. Yes, that was a good one.
I'm
I
going to
think
drop
that
a
was
link
still
to my
one that
channel
Richard
because
wrote.
I did
It was the first one.
Yeah, it's the
I
first
did-
one Richard wrote. Yeah.
I did a stream, a Christmas movie stream. So if you're inclined, go and check me out, please.
Yes, do.
Absolutely.
We all have to support the little buses of Ireland, and support Potato Revan. All right, with that, thank you all, and good night.
Good night.